As we hit record on today's podcast episode, we are coming off the back of an amazing week in our business. Sunday was Nicky doing her TEDx talk at QUT, which I flew up to Brisbane for. And then 2 nights later, we were celebrating the launch of our book, Healthy Hustle. So by the time this drops into your ears, hopefully the TEDx talk that Nicky did will be available on the TEDx, world. And we will drop a link into today's show notes so that you can have a look at that. And if it's not, please just send us a DM or an email, and we'll make sure you get the link as soon as that comes available. And I highly, highly, highly recommend that you watch it. It's how many minutes is it, Nicky? Is it 16 minutes?
About 16, yeah. But I mean, it's amazing how many people have said that they just can't believe it was actually that long.
Yeah, that's right, because it
It
feels
doesn't
like
feel it.
it goes in a blink of an eye. Very, very powerful message. And I was equally proud and inspired and just in awe of you on the stage and how well you did. And it kind of got me thinking that because I've been in the behind the scenes angle of it as well, watching just how much preparation, how many hours upon hours go into refining the script, into memorizing the script. It's just like phenomenal the amount of work that you and every other presenter on a TEDx stage do to get there. That I just felt like there could be some gold in this. And I reflect back to going to a TEDx talk in Cecil Street in Melbourne back in March and coming away from that, texting you saying, oh my God, Nicky, you need to be on stage sharing this message of healthy hustle, because it is a dream of yours, a passion of yours to do the public speaking, probably more so than mine as well. I mean, I do love speaking, clearly. But I know that that's something that you're wanting to get into more of. So to have the stage, to have the presence, it's just amazing. So in saying all of that, I think today let's unpack maybe your top 3 lessons that you've learned in whatever way you want to describe them from doing the TEDx talk. And I'll throw it open to you to do some reflection as we go through that.
I love this. Thank you, Ness. And it is a dream come true. And some people will have heard me say that 10 years ago, I bought a book called How to Do a TED Talk. And I was like, oh, I'm going to put it on out there as a goal. And then I was like, nah, that's too scary. I'll just put that to the side. And here we are. It has absolutely been a journey, and you have seen the behind the scenes. You've been the champion, the picker upper off of the floor person when I've had my meltdowns, joining me in the celebrations. There is so much that goes on behind the scenes to get ready for an event like this, because you kind of can get up and wing it, but you kind of can't. You've got a script. It's approved by TED. There's speaker coaches you're working with, and shout out to Montana, who's the co-director for TEDx QT. She has tough conversations with you, encouraging you to dig deeper, share more of your personal story. Everyone has their own sort of experience through this, but it is really it's a personal development program. It's a professional program, professional development. And you've got to try and stick to your script as much as possible. So memorizing 16 minutes, yeah, I'm pretty proud. and I remembered everything. So I'm really proud. You to the point that it's okay. A lot of people ask for lines live, and that's okay as well. So I do want to do a shout out to all the fellow speakers, and definitely check them out as well. And it is such great timing because, as you said, we had the book launch and just that self-reflection. So really for the last 9 months, it's been 9 months since we first put pen or fingers to typing pads, keyboards to start the book, since the application for the first TEDx round came around. That was, I think, Feb, March, not long after you messaged me. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is meant to be. And so it's my sister studied and was an accredited midwife. It's like birthing a baby. I mean, not
It is too.
literally, but it's a 9 month we've birthed these things to the world, and the synchronicity between the two of them coming together, and this message of healthy hustle. The TEDx talk is called The Art of Healthy Hustle. And of course, the book is called Healthy Hustle. So in reflecting on this, I will also say it is incredible how many people have reached out to both of us
Mm,
from the book launch, from the TEDx, to say, wow, I feel like you were talking directly to me
yeah.
when we had our interview from the TEDx. It's just amazing. So, the first thing I want to say to everyone is we're not alone. You are not alone in this.
Oh,
If you resonate with anything we've ever talked about, the reason we were able to do a book and a TEDx talk is because there's so many people out there feeling the pain of this, of going, hang on, I want to be successful and achieve great things, but I also don't want it to break me. So
yeah.
that's that healthy hustle piece. So
Yeah, I feel like adding to that, you know, we see you. We've
mm,
been you. And we that's what I love about our experiences that led us into writing the book. For you, it was about hitting the burnout wall. You know, for me, I didn't have that experience, but I was definitely experiencing the entrepreneurial addiction, which we have another podcast on. We'll put the link to that. So there were different ways of arriving at that end point, which was unhealthy hustle.
mm,
And then obviously what we talk about, what we're passionate about, what we help people with is finding a better way. We've got to still hustle, but we really want to find a way to be able to do that in a way that's really healthy. And I
yeah.
know, ironically, that there were times throughout the last
Yes.
9 months where it was, we would have conversations around, particularly for you, because you were juggling the both of those at the same time. And there's a lot of hours that you put in above and beyond, but particularly around noticing writing a book on healthy hustle and feeling like I'm very unhealthy in my hustle at the moment. So
Yes.
no one gets this stuff perfect.
No, it's absolutely not. It's that evolution. That is my first big learn, first big
Mhm.
takeaway insight is that the healthy hustle, this evolution, this journey, whatever we call it, to healthy hustle continues. It's not like you write a book on it and you get it. And I shared at the book launch a story where I was right at the peak of we'd written the book, but we were in the middle of getting it published. So there's so many moving parts of that because we self-published. I was at, I think, the third out of the fourth draft of the TEDx script. So you're getting detailed feedback. You're getting, encouraged to stretch and pull and dig deeper. These things were happening. We just started working with the speaker coaches. Also, we've got everyday BAU business going on. And I find myself in hospital getting checked out because I had chest pains. And Jules was like looking at me lying on the hospital, all mapped up to the ECG, whatever, the monitors and things. And she's like, Nikki, you just wrote a book on healthy hustle. I was like, yeah, okay, that's true. So everything was fine. It was
Yeah.
just, a lot happening and the hustle wasn't so healthy. But the beautiful thing in that is that I realized, okay, what do I need to do? What are the principles, the strategies, the tools that I need to step back and reconnect with? And genuinely, I looked at the book. Even
Yeah.
when we were writing the book and writing about entrepreneurial addiction, I'm like, there are times where I have felt all those 6 signs, and right now I'm feeling some of them. So let's just keep
Mm.
this in the flow instead of, going into destructive chaos. But that's the first lesson and the first learn. There will be moments where it is so easy for the hustle to become unhealthy. Also crazy, I've had people come up to me and say it's chest pain things like that.
Oh,
These are
yeah.
common signs. Like,
Yeah.
so again, this is the reminder that you're not alone. We have to take care of our health, number one. And it's easy to get wrapped up into it when we love what we do and there's lots of really cool things going on, or we're caught in that busy trap. Pop the pause button. What do you need to reconnect with? And I'm really proud to say that in that moment, which was probably a few months ago now, I was like, great, I'll get back to those principles.
Yeah.
And I talked to you and I was like, what can I do with Jules? And it was easier to implement that
Yeah.
stuff, definitely as it would have been than it would have been 10 years ago.
I love what you say there, because I guess the thing that I notice about high achievers is that we have an expectation that we are the best at the things that we do, right? And so if you're listening to this and you associate with that, you want to smash your goals, you want to be the best version of yourself, you want to achieve these things. And often we would have the conversation around, hang on a minute, it's our business and it's our book. We choose these deadlines. We can actually push it back. There's nothing out there externally telling us that we must do this. And in fact, we did push the launch back by a couple of weeks just
Mm.
because we saw what was involved and coming up. So what I hear in that is don't be a perfectionist and have self-awareness enough to be able to put the call out, that line in the sand moment that where you say, okay, I've got to pause now. Because if I keep going in this direction, if you kept pushing and pushing, then you would have turned into, like potentially more serious complications. Instead, you've stepped back at that point in time. Could say it could have happened earlier, but at
Yeah,
that
I
point in
agree.
time, and said, I need to do something differently. And I'm going to go back to what I know, to what our research and our clients, what we've seen happen in relation to how to get out of that kind of hustle hard mentality and reprioritize so that you are putting yourself back in first place. Because when we look back on that, Nick, if it had been more complicated and more serious than
Mm.
that, the flow on impact to our business, to your family, to your friends would have been much bigger than, having a book out in the world.
And even to achieving the goals, if it got worse, then it would have impacted me being able to do the TEDx talk at all.
Absolutely.
Or, and I think it's quite kind of cool reflecting, because I had familiar feelings of that burnout. Well, and I remember saying to you and my psychologist at the time, it's like I pumped the brakes on and I just rolled and I like tapped the little burnout wall, but I didn't smash into it. And I was like, I'm really proud of that. Like I could see it and I rolled. And my psychologist was like, well, that's too late. Like you just did that. I'm like, hang on. I was really proud of myself that I spotted it. But she's like, well, no, because you tapped it. Like, what do you need to do? It was a really good wake up call. But again, it's that whole thing. Know our repeat patterns. You've
Yeah.
got different ones. Ness, you've got different ones. Everyone
Yeah.
that's listening. And be kind to yourself when you kind of F it up a little bit, because that
Yeah.
will happen as well. Because that was a big piece of that. I'm like, what? How could I? Dump a bucket. I was sick on myself. I've read a book on this. I've da 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 da. It's like, hang on, but I'm human. It's okay.
Mm.
And it's kind of awkward even sharing this story, but I think it's important because hopefully somebody out there needs to hear this. It's
Yeah.
okay. Be kind to ourselves. Let's just regroup and then start again. Um,
100%.
yeah, really cool.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Okay. So that's lesson number one. What's
Lesson number
lesson number
one.
two?
Lesson number two, this is one of my favorite to talk about because, as I said, I did I had a dream of doing a TED talk for many years. And even when I put the application in, I was like, butt clench moment
Yeah.
massively. And then when I had to do the interview, I was like, oh God, I'm going to vomit in my mouth. And then all of the different things. But what I realized, and what was really great in shaping my mindset to really prime my mindset, was that I'll be ready. Don't focus on the future too much, because my future self will be ready for that. If I'd have started panicking 3 months ago, or thinking about, oh my gosh, I've got to get up on stage. And look, there were moments of that, but I could bring it back and go, hang on, myself right now is not ready, but my future self in 3 months will be ready, because there's all that work, all that mindset, all that practice, all that prep. And we can apply this to anything in
Yeah.
life. So often our clients worry about a problem in the future that hasn't even happened yet, or may not even happen. A
Yeah.
time, an event. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day who was having nightmares about things going wrong at her wedding. And I asked her when her wedding is, and it's in 12 months. I was like, oh, okay. Okay. You're gonna drown yourself in this fear and
Mm.
worry, because your person in 12 months is going to be ready for whatever that thing is. And I really, really, really saw this come to life with this TEDx talk. So when I was able to say, okay, your future self will be ready. And I tell you what, I was ready. I was ready
Yeah.
and I did it. So I think that's a really important lesson. Where are we projecting? To the
Mm.
past, to the
Yeah.
future? How can we come back to the present?
Oh God, I resonate with that so much because I often, use the language around you're trying to solve a problem you don't already have.
Yes,
You know,
so
you've got
true.
you think you've got to go through, you're at step 10. That's the problem you're trying to solve, but you haven't gone through steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 in order to get there. And for me, my biggest lesson around that personally was going back quite a few years ago. My brother had his 50th birthday, and he does a lot of long distance walking, like we're talking PCT trial in America for 6 months. So him and his partner are crazy about walking. And for his birthday, he took us up to Mount Hotham in Victoria because they often walk from Walhalla to Canberra. And that's a massive distance over a long period of time. And he took us up to this top of this mountain, and he pointed in one direction. He said, as far as the eye could see in that direction, plus 4 or 5 days is Walhalla. And then he pointed in the other direction and he said, as far as your eye can see, plus another 4 or 5 weeks is Canberra. And I remember at the time having a hyperventilation moment going, oh my God, that would be, how could I do that? And I was thinking about how heavy the backpack would be, how many blisters would be in my feet, how cold the nights would be. Like I'm spiraling out of control in my mind around how horrifying that sounded to me without stopping to realize, well, I'm never going to do the walk. And even if I was crazy enough like them to do it, the amount of preparation they put into doing that, the materials they had, the lightness of their packs, the shoes that they'd chosen, the walks that they did leading up to it. I was trying to solve a problem I definitely didn't
Mm,
have or was ever going to have.
mm.
And because they were able to do that, because they did what they needed to do to get there. And I know if that was my mindset on a walk with them, they would have ditched me at day 2.
Yes.
But we
Yeah.
do this in business and we do it in life. And I just think it's such a great lesson to reflect on, to just pause and go, hang on, do I actually have that problem right now?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's where we get stuck.
Completely. And your future self will be ready.
Yeah.
And you know what? Even your future self this afternoon, even
Mm.
if there's a meeting that you've got and you're nervous about, you're a different version of you in an hour to what you are right now. You're listening to this podcast, so you'll be definitely a different version. But every conversation we have, every experience we have, every moment we have creates more depth and strength and breadth and experience in who we are to be able to deal with those future problems. So there's really two messages here. One is that
Yeah.
our future self is a different version of us, will be able to handle the problems in that moment. And two is linked to that. So don't worry about the problems that aren't even here yet, because they
Yeah.
may never come.
Yeah. Just
And if
focus
they
on the
do
next
come,
step.
exactly. And if they do come, you'll be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just
Yeah.
focus on the next step. Yep. Beautiful.
Love
That's my
it.
lesson number 2.
All right. Let's go lesson number 3.
Lesson number 3, trust yourself. Oh my goodness. Our mindset, our brain can tell us some stories or what. My goodness. I was, again, my future
Yeah.
self was ready. I was prepped. I'd put in the hours. I'd put in the work. I found the delicate balance of not over rehearsing, but rehearsing, all of that.
Yeah.
Half an hour out, I'm backstage. I'm getting ready to get mic'd up. Man, I got in my head. I don't even know. I don't know why it happened, but I spiraled and then I panicked and I thought, I don't remember my script.
Oh
Tried
no.
to start. I know, and nobody even, because most people were out. The session had started. I was on last of the day, which is amazing and also a great stretch of managing nerves and things. But I handled it all so well. I had a great day. And then in this moment, half an hour out, the spiral, the panic around, I forgot my script. So I tried to sort of say it in my mind, and my mind went blank. The thing that everyone has told me in this lead up, and what I had to tell myself in that moment, and I had fellow speakers, shout out to Nick and Zara, if they ever listen to this, who really helped me with this, is trust yourself. All that work that you did, it's kind of linked to that. Your future self is ready. But in that moment, you still have to let go and trust yourself. Again, for whatever that is, whether that's that meeting that you're a bit nervous about, that big walk that's ridiculously long and over the mountains, whether it's that sales conversation, whatever it is that you have, you can do all the prep. You still need to let go and trust yourself, even though it feels like you're free falling. And that was the moment that I had. So when I just went, whatever, I'll go out. If I stuff it up and I forget everything, whatever, which I didn't. I remembered
Yeah.
every line, so trust yourself, even when your brain is telling you all the reasons to panic or to not. We need to let go and connect to that trust, and beautiful things will happen. That's my
Mm,
third lesson.
that's amazing. I love that one, gave me chills because I think that there are so many times that, particularly in business, in leadership, that self-doubt comes up. I hear a lot of people talk about, one of our common asked questions is imposter syndrome. How do you overcome imposter syndrome? How do you have this when you're sitting in a meeting and you're, trying to have your voice shared, but you feel so nervous about it
Mm,
because you're worried what's going to come out of your mouth. You've just that message around trust yourself, because every single person that has had that conversation with me in a coaching session or just in passing in a general conversation, you can bet they know their stuff.
mm,
They haven't earned a place at the table in those meetings to not have something important to say.
yeah.
And so I think that, that message around trust yourself, even when you're going through, challenging times in a business, for example, if you have to have a really difficult conversation with someone, if you're a good human being and you have the
Yeah.
best outcome in mind for that person, for you, for the good of everything, coming to a resolution, you've got to trust that you're going to be able to do that.
Mm,
And, you know, the choice that you have in that moment is to be courageous and just do it anyway. And then afterwards, you realize, actually, I had that. I was okay. Or it freezes us and
mm.
it stops us from doing the thing. It'll stop us from having the conversation, which makes it a bigger burn and a harder thing to do down the track, right? How many people, myself included, have tried to avoid a problem, bury your head in the sand a bit and hope it goes away. And if it's a people problem, I bet you bite you on the bum
Mm.
if you don't do anything about it. In business, the things that you don't want to do. In sales, picking up that phone for the 15th time of the day to make that call and feeling the, ugh, what am I going to do if the person, oh, I used to have this,
Answers if they answer.
if they,
Like actually.
well, my fear was, what happens if they yell at me? Like, I mean, who's
Oh,
ever going to be that rude?
yeah, and I mean, even if they are, this is that whole, it's that resilience piece.
Mm.
But there is, I often say in sales training, what if they pick up? What if they say yes? Like sometimes that's the
Yes.
thing that we can be fearful of,
Yeah.
without even realizing it. And they're classic examples of trust ourselves. It's
Mm.
our brain that is getting in our way. It is feeling that we are getting out of our comfort zone. So it's trying to keep us safe. All
Yeah.
the reasons why you shouldn't do that thing, or, but yeah, great examples.
Yeah. Wow. So let's recap the top three. Number one was,
Embrace the healthy hustle is ongoing. We
yep,
don't arrive. It's not a checklist tick and flick. We're
it's not
not
like cleaning
perfect.
your teeth once and thinking I'm done.
Exactly. It's a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Number two,
Your future self will be ready.
love it. And number three.
Trust yourself.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So if we were, well, it's an interesting one because we're talking about your lessons from a TEDx talk.
Mm,
So
mm.
there could be a small percentage of listeners who are keen to do a TEDx talk and could take some sort of action in the next 24 hours. But for the rest of us who don't have that on our wish list, from your lessons, what do you think could be an actionable action that someone can take in the next 24 hours?
Great question, Ness. And I actually didn't think of this until this moment. I also think it doesn't matter if you want to do a TEDx talk or not, these lessons are transferable into everyday life. And so I'm going to start with the first one, with this healthy hustle being an ongoing. I want you to rate yourself. Just actually pause for
Mm,
a moment and rate yourself out of 10. 10 out of 10, how the healthy. Let's look at that. So if you rate yourself 10 out of 10 for healthy, that means that you have been having micro moments, you're sleeping well, you feel optimal energy, you're having breaks in the day, like those, like, so it's healthy as in incorporating it into your working day. And then rate yourself 10 out of 10 or out of 10 for hustle. Now, if you were, we want the hustle to be optimal is probably, I don't know, between 5 and 7, 8. But maybe your hustle is 15. I don't know if this even makes sense, Ness, but like, is the hustle over 10? If it's
mm,
beyond 10, that's a problem. Does that make
yeah, okay.
sense? Did I just
I
make
think
that actually
so.
really complicated?
No, I hear that we parked the healthy part and then we're
Hmm.
looking at another scale. So if we're like,
For
we're
the
feeling
hustle.
for the
Mm,
hustle, if we feel like we are hustling day in, day out, we are time poor, stuck in the busy trap, we're
yeah.
juggling, everything feels chaotic, we're probably going to be going, I am past a 10.
Exactly. So you kind of want to check in if you've got between, like, with, because the thing is, if your hustle is 2 out of 10, are you on holidays? Like,
Yeah.
cool. That's all good if you are, but we want a bit of hustle. So we want the hustle to be probably between 5, 7, max 8.
Yeah.
If your hustle is 8 to 12 or over the 10, 8 to 10 or over, then I want you to pause and go, I need to bring a bit more healthy
Yeah.
in. So
Yeah.
I gave you a complicated way, but I feel like in my mind it works. Let
I
me
think
know
they
if it works for
marry.
you. They
They
marry
marry
together. You
together.
want to look at them both. You've got to make sure you're at least 10 out of 10, or, you know, working towards 10 out of 10 for healthy, and you don't want to be over 8 out of 10 for hustle. I'll stop talking
Fantastic.
now. Otherwise, I might confuse things even more. Just reach out if you've got a question, if you want me to try and, I don't know, explain it a bit better.
Absolutely. And I encourage every single one of you listening and watching today, please, please, please go click that link. Listen to Nikki and her TEDx talk. It won't, like, you won't be disappointed. It's quite amazing. So thanks for
Thanks,
tuning
Ness.
in today. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.